Hello my friends, Aspen here. I'm out just taking a quick walk today with my Action 2, and I actually want to test something with this camera which I haven't been thinking about at all, and that is the stabilization between the different modes on the Action 2. Rocksteady 2.0 was first launched with this camera when it was out in 2021, and after the latest update you get steady mode and horizon balancing. So we're gonna do a quick test and just run a little bit and see if there is any difference between the different modes. Rocksteady 2.0 in standard D warp, which I'm filming in now, is supposed to get rid of the distortion in the image, but when people were shooting in wide and ultra wide, the distortion was too much. That's the reason why DJI launched an update and call it steady mode, which actually get rid of the distortion in the image, and it looks way better, but of course it crops in on your face a little bit. That's due to the algorithm they have to made for the camera just to get rid of the distortion. But do it affect the stabilization? That's the biggest question. And we're gonna do a quick test and just see. I'm gonna run and we're gonna see how the stabilization is in the different modes. So first we're gonna do Rocksteady 2.0 in standard D warp, which most people are filming in. But actually after the latest update I'm usually always using horizon balancing. But let's test it and see and start to run in Rocksteady 2.0. Okay guys, let's run in Rocksteady 2.0. Not easy to hold my hands steady. You can actually I think you can see that on the horizon it's turning up and down. So this is standard D warp, Rocksteady 2.0. Let's switch to steady mode in standard D warp and see if there is any difference. Let's do that now. Yeah, so we switch now to steady mode. As you can see, the image crops in a little bit, not that much, but the distortion is not there. But is the stabilization as good as Rocksteady 2.0? We're gonna find out and start running. Steady mode, standard D warp. Not easy to hold my hands steady. Steady mode. Actually, standard D warp. I think you can see that on the horizon it's turning up and down. So this is standard D warp, Rocksteady 2.0. Let's switch to steady mode in standard D. Okay guys, we now switch to horizon balancing, which is my favorite mode on the Action 2, because you can tilt the camera and the horizon is steady up to 45 degrees. But does it affect the stabilization? And or is it any difference at all? I don't think so, because I think they tweaked the algorithm on the camera and only crops in the image a little bit. Actually, maybe the stabilization is better when they crop in the image. We're gonna find out and see. So this is horizon balancing, which is great. You can't switch the field of view in this mode. You can only do that in Rocksteady 2.0 and steady mode. So let's run a little bit and see if it's affected the stabilization. Let's do that now. It's not easy to hold my hands steady, but the horizon should be locked on. It's not easy to hold my hands steady, but the horizon should be locked on. Okay, I think I'm gonna switch now to wide in Rocksteady and also do that in steady mode. And you can watch out for distortion in the image. There should be much more distortion in Rocksteady than in steady mode. Let's do that. Okay guys, we switch now to Rocksteady 2.0 in wide. You can see that the image is much wider and it looks pretty good, but you have some distortion in the image, I'm pretty sure. And we're gonna see the difference between Rocksteady and steady mode just to see how the image looks, but also how the distortion is. So let's take a quick run in Rocksteady 2.0 in wide. Let's do that now. Yeah, let's switch to steady mode. Just see how the image is, because it crops in a little bit in wide, but also pay attention to the stabilization. I don't think there is any difference at all. So let's do that now. Okay guys, we are on not Rocksteady, we are on steady mode in wide. You can probably see the difference between Rocksteady wide and steady wide. But the only difference should be distortion in the image, and that's it. The image crops in a little bit just to get rid, of course, of the distortion in the image. That's the point of improving the distortion. But does it affect the stabilization? That's what we're gonna see and test now. So let's run. Yeah, okay, just for the fun of it, we switch now to Rocksteady 2.0 ultra wide. I usually don't use this mode at all, but because it's so distorted and looks pretty strange. But in steady mode, I think it looks quite alright. But let's see if this affects the stabilization between Rocksteady 2.0 and steady mode. In horizon balancing, you have a fixed focal length, so it doesn't matter which mode you test it in, you only have one option. But let's see how the stabilization is in Rocksteady 2.0 in ultra wide. So let's now switch to steady mode in ultra wide. You can see the image crops in and the distortion is more or less gone, but the image is still pretty wide. But we're gonna see if it affects the stabilization. That's always interesting to see. Let's switch. So guys, this is ultra wide in steady mode. You can see the image is pretty wide, but distortion isn't that bad as it is on Rocksteady 2.0. But does this affect the stabilization? That's interesting to see. I don't think so, but I'm gonna do another test another day, mounting this camera to something that is much more bumpier and more up and down and side to side on my car. But today I'm just testing it for running on asphalt. So let's run and see. Not easy to keep my hands still, but that's the point of it. Ultra wide. Not easy to keep my hands still, but that's the point. of it. Ultra wide. Yeah. So what do you think? Which mode looks best? And can you see any difference between the stabilization between the different modes? Like I said, the difference between Rocksteady and steady mode is only the distortion, I think. I don't think it affects stabilization at all. But for me personal, I don't use Rocksteady anymore because I think the image is too distorted, even in standard deep-warp. So for vlogging, I use horizon balancing. If I want to show more, I use steady mode, which looks pretty good. But is there a difference in the image quality? Is there a difference in stabilization? Tell me down in the comments. And this is actually a request from Jason. He was just wondering about stabilization. So thank you, Jason. And thank you so much for watching and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.